We're doing it. More growth, growing mass level. We're going to be talking about vertical growing. These are vertical food murals. You can grow upward, and it's an exciting topic to talk about. So stick around. We're here at Duomo Gardens. My name's AB, and we're about to have a good old time. Okay. Vermiponics. That's what they're calling this. A new thing. We're really excited to have this at Duomo Gardens. So we're going to talk a little bit about what vermiponics is. What does it mean to grow vertical? Again, these are vertical food murals, and once they fill in, they're the most beautiful thing. It's an artwork piece. We've already harvested. We've been eating off of this for the last couple of months. We got new growth happening up here. We got some mid growth here that's been around for a little bit. These basils have been around for a little bit longer. You know, I love basil. Snap a little basil, take a little, beautiful. It's right here. It's fresh. It's right for you. I mean, you can just cut and you're eating it right on your plate. So let's talk about what it is, because this is a new thing, and I'm really excited that we have this here at Duomo Gardens. And as you see, the main thing we have going on is it's grown up. And this is space that probably wouldn't be utilized before. There was ornamental plants here. There was some cactus and succulents. Now we have food growing in the driveway. This is a space that I wouldn't normally have food at all, and I got 288 spots. I can have 288 heads of lettuce. Each mural, right? This is one of the murals right here, has 72 options to grow food. We're growing mostly lettuce, but we have some other herbs. We've got tulsi, we've got basil. I'm gonna get some strawberries in here soon. Primarily lettuce. That's what grows well on these. But I've seen chard on here. We just harvested some fennel. So we can grow a variety of foods here. We'd be surprised what happens. And we're experimenting too, since this is a new thing going on. Again, Vermiponics. And come on over here. This is my second mural. We got 4 of these. There's actually 4 of these little walls, if you wanted to call them. And this one's going off, as you can see. But these heads of lettuce become a head of lettuce in about 4 to 5 weeks, and you're harvesting. Bam! And during the time that they're growing, you can actually harvest the bottom leaves and trim about 2, 3, 4 of these leaves on each head. And all of a sudden, you got a big salad every day, and it's actually helping to promote the growth of these heads of lettuce. Every once in a while, you might see a head of lettuce seed out, or both. It happens. And you might or might not know, when you're growing lettuce in your backyard, you have a short season. It's primarily like a winter type of thing. As soon as it gets hot, spring, summertime, heads of lettuce usually bolt out, which means they go into seeding, and then you have no more lettuce. The beautiful thing about this system, the Vermiponics, the vertical grow, is that we have lettuce year-round. I'll be eating lettuce all year. We might see a little bit more bolting, which means seeding in September. It just depends on your climate and what you have going on weather-wise. But for the most part, what's beautiful about this system is that we have lettuce growing all the time. So again, vertical food grows, and these can get up to 8 feet tall. Right? We keep them right about just under 6, because here in the city of San Diego, if you go over 6, you need a permit. Not that it's difficult to get, but it's just another layer for you to deal with to have these growing at your house. But we keep them under 6 feet so that we don't have to deal with any kind of permitting, and we just have more of them. But you can get up to 8 feet tall. You can get pretty high on these and be growing lots of food. So let's talk about how this works. I'm going to bring you over here to the worm tap, as we call it. These are the worm taps, and these, again, you can make these bigger too if you want. But what you're doing is basically housing a bunch of worms in here. I take my kitchen scraps, any kind of food waste, some of the stuff from my garden, and I just put it in here. And as you can see, there's all kinds of food in here, and there's a worm right there, right? If you look in, there's a bunch of little worms right there. Let's take a look at another tray. One that's more exposed, see if you can see some worms. Yeah, there's all your worms right there, right? You see those guys reaching out and in? Boom. So what they do is they eat up my garden waste. They eat up my kitchen waste, and they break it down Little buggers, they break it down into worm castings, which is basically worm poop. If you missed our composting session that we did a while back, vermicomposting, which is basically what's going on here, is introduction to worms. We have a few thousand of red wigglers and European night crawlers, and within a few months, they'll double up. By the end of September, we'll have 5,000 to 10,000 worms here doing the work. And that's what's unique about this system, as you're taking vermicomposting, mix it in with hydroponics to get vermiponics. So they do their work, they create worm castings, thick nutrient substance basically, and then we have a water pump that takes water to the top of the worm tap, trickles down, and is soaking all that food, all those worm castings, through all these trays back and forth until you get down to the bottom piece. And this is a little reservoir down here that basically captures the worm tea, the Vermiponics worm tea. And then twice a day, that gets pumped over to our big res over here. And this reservoir basically is holding all that worm tea, all that Vermiponics worm tea is sitting in here. And then there's water pumps down there that are generated by these solar panels right up here. These solar panels basically power this whole entire system, so you don't need to be plugged in. These can be anywhere you want. You can be out in the middle of nowhere and you have food powered by the sun, which is a beautiful thing. So these solar panels activate the pumps in there, the big water pumps, and we have them on a timer, and those pumps are going to pump all that goodness up to these trays, right? Up these hoses, down these little hoses here, and then these little hoses squirt all that goodness into these trays, and then they kind of roll down the trays so all the lettuce or whatever you have growing get that goodies, and then eventually it gets swooped back into these two trays, and then captures all the leftover and puts it back into the worm tap. So again, the water pump pumps up all that worm tea basically to these four trays, right? See these four hoses, pumps them into those four, and then they go all the way down to the end, captures the water down to the last two trays, and then that water pumps back through these last two trays, back into this exit point, and then back into the worm tap, or I'm sorry, the res that has the goodness from the worm tap. And that's basically how it works. Pretty simple and wonderful. These things are loving the process. And we've experimented with a lot of different kinds of lettuce. We're still experimenting. Certain ones do well, other ones don't do as well. So we're figuring out what works best for this system. So that's it basically in a nutshell on how it works. It's pretty simple. You do have to maintenance it. There is some labor involved, obviously. You can't just leave. You have to make sure that everything's functioning. You got to make sure your pH levels are correct. Right now my pH levels are about, I think, just over 7, a little high. It thrives right around 6 to 6.5 pH. So if you can keep it between 6 and 6.5, that's optimal. That's when these plants are really going to be thriving. The other thing that you want to consider too when you're maintaining these vertical food murals is to make sure that you have enough air. If you guys notice, I don't know if you hear it, but we're actually aerating because you want air inside of that worm tea. I don't know if you guys remember what we talked about with with our soil making. Since we're not growing in soil, we're actually just having these plants get exposed to the nutrients, air, and water. So you want to make sure that there's air inside of this fluid right here. Little mosquito there. You want to make sure that you have air in there because plants want air. Those root systems want air. So something to remember too is when this system is pumping to these trays, it actually pumps it for about 5 minutes of just water flowing with nutrients, and then it stops for 5 minutes, and then it lets the roots actually breathe a little bit and get some air. Right? 'Cause remember, air and water, key. Just like for us humans, we love our air and water. These plants thrive on air and water as well. So they pump for 5 minutes, getting fed, system shuts off, and then you have just air. And it lets them kind of breathe, get some air quality in there, right? And then that's it. That's all it needs. So as long as you got your air flowing through your system, you're going to be doing just great. So that's the basic run on what we have here on the Vermiponic system. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited to see where things are going to go with it. But if you guys have any other questions about what we're doing here or how this works, be more than happy to connect. One thing I shouldn't mention that's really important too is the quality of your water. We did another episode about watering your plants, and the quality of your water is important. So we use RO water. As soon as it comes out of the tap, it gets purified so there's nothing in it, so that when we actually do our water testing here to maintenance it, we know exactly what's in the water, not too many carbonates and that kind of thing. And you definitely don't want all the stuff they put in city water, in tap water. So we're really excited about having our RO system really doing a great job here as far as minimal waste as well. Normally RO systems, a lot of wastewater. Here we're only dealing with 1 gallon of water to maybe about 1.5 gallons of waste. And then that we either water some of our succulents and trees and shrubs and that kind of thing, and or we don't. But that's it in a nutshell. Hope you guys had a great time with me, and we're growing my stuff.